Amofan was in a mood while humming Little Apple as he walked toward Mengwen Middle School. Mengwen Middle School was a private all-girls school. The most delicate and fashionable girls were assembled there. The difference between this and other schools was this school doesn't use the dull magic theory education, and they definitely didn't have fools who only knew how to write exams in magic books. These girls came from families with magic backgrounds. Thus, they naturally knew more than the magic students who had to go through 9 years of compulsory magic education. For an instance, some of them would frequently wear a magic tool ornament around their chest. This magic second generation has been wearing magical tools that enhance their spiritual force since the day they were born. Compared to these people, Amofan was just a peasant who has to climb his way up, step by step. The small roads around the school were filled with luxurious vehicles as it was just in time for the end of school. Amofan was very clear about Xingxia's character. She would definitely go around the girls with limousines and go along the small road in the alley. As she smelled the fragrance of the small bamboo by the window which was planted by the residents, Amofan walked around the main entrance as he planned to wait for the little sister, Xingxia, by the end of the road in the alley. There weren't many people who would use the road in the alley. Amofan passed through other people's courtyards as he entered the familiar road. Although the world has changed, the city with which he was so familiar hadn't changed, neither had the bamboo by the window. Thinking about it, Xingxia shouldn't have changed either. Amofan stood in the middle of the alley with his back leaning onto a wall. He looked like a gangster waiting for an opportunity to extort arcade tokens from primary students. He would occasionally raise his eyes to look at the entrance of the alley, hoping to surprise the girl who was about to come over. Who would have thought that the beautiful silhouette would not appear for half the day? How come she's not coming? The pose in which Amofan was standing made him feel numb. As he slightly closed his eyes, Amofan was practically about to enter meditation out of habit. Suddenly, Amofan heard a noise coming from the entrance of the alley in the direction of the small hill. Usually, these noises and clamors would be deafened by the high walls of the alley. For some reason, these noises ended up in his ears. Could it be the side effects of meditation has increased perception? Amofan began walking toward the direction of the small hill in curiosity. As he walked in the direction of the small hill, it became clear all of a sudden. The front side, at the foot of the hill, was roughly a kilometer away from the house that Amofan's family recently sold. Down the hill was a small lawn that looked like a small park. Near an air vent was a swing made of twisted vines. The swing was standing still, without the slightest bit of movement. Sitting on top of the swing was a girl with long, black hair. The winter wind messed her hair, revealing a silky white and delicate face. She had long eyelashes, exquisite nose, and lips glossy like jade. She attentively looked forward in silence. It was as though she perfectly blended in as a portrait with the winter swings and delicate lotus. Cold and lovely, yet alone as her unique temperament blossomed. Amofan's steps halted suddenly, without realizing when he started to enjoy looking at her like this. Seeing her sitting caused a warm current to surge within Amofan, flowing down the deepest part of his heart. At which point, he couldn't help but allow the corner of his mouth to curve. However, in this moment, Amofan felt something wasn't right. His eyebrows immediately creased as he walked toward the elegant girl sitting on the swing. The girl also felt someone walking over. However, as she saw it was Amofan, her face didn't appear surprised at all. She only gently laughed, as though she knew this person would be coming and she was here waiting for him. "Big brother Amofan," the girl called out with a sweet voice. "It's that crap again, isn't it?" As Amofan walked over, a faint anger crept up his face. Xingxia didn't say anything. "Today, I will definitely deal with them. They're a group of degenerates." Amofan's anger multiplied, and he gazed at the staircase on the hill. "There's a lot of them, forget it." Xingxia shook her head, advising Amofan to drop his anger. "It's not possible to forget about it. I'm going to deal with these dregs." Amofan said no more and followed the staircase up. Xinxia, who was sitting on the swing, wanted to pull Amofan away, but Amofan was already climbing up the mountain, seething in anger. Xinxia was familiar with Amofan's temper. He has always fought the neighborhood bullies and ruffians for 2 reasons related to her. He would fight against multiple people every time and return with wounds all over his body. This was something she wants to see the least. The ones bothering her this time weren't some small ruffian or bullies. It was clear these people had long ago dropped out of school. The people who messed around in this area were known as the Azure Bear Gang. They were for hire to the wealthy girls living around here. Whoever they didn't like, they'd step on them. There were at least 5 people over there, and 2 of them had very sturdy bodies. Their bodies were several times bigger than Amofan's. If Amofan were to go up there to find them, he would definitely be beaten badly. On the pavilion, on the hill. Su Bing, don't you think we lack elegance if we do it like this? A youth said with a cigarette hanging from his mouth and poker cards in his hands. How are we lacking elegance? This is my 16th time expressing my sincere feelings to her, allowing her to become my girlfriend. Can't I sit here on the pavilion playing cards as she considers this? The young man called Su Bing responded. On Su Bing's neck was a clear azure-colored tattoo and, due to his short jacket that covered half of the tattoo on his neck, it seemed extremely eye-catching. You could tell with a single glance that he was a character that was hard to provoke. Yeah, if she wants to reject you, she would have walked away already. King Flash, ha ha ha. Give me the money, double up. Sitting on the other side, a young man wearing a cowboy hat with a hole said, Damn, this bullshit luck of yours. One more round, one more round. We'll play till the sky turns dark. I don't believe the girl won't panic. Su Bing narrowed his eyes, enjoying the position of someone on top. Towards girls, one had to be unyielding. A girl's natural disposition was to be shy. If one isn't a bit unyielding, then one would not be able to do anything. This girl Xinxia was becoming prettier with time. Seeing her really made one excited. There's actually someone who would say that I'm like a toad who wants to eat the meat of a swan. Today, I will claim this girl, and then see who would dare to say anything. Oh right, I remember this little girl still has a brother. That's annoying. The young man in cowboy adornments commented. His battle prowess is lacking. Other than having an unyielding character, he is just a meatbag. You can beat him up however you want. Su Bing said without caring much. That's right. Before, I would be enough to deal with him. Now, I've gained some muscle. I'd like try beating that thing up. Speaking of which, Su Bing, aren't your preferences a bit too much? This girl does indeed look good, however. Being able to do that is a bit hard to say. I think so, too. In this all-girl school, there are numerous of pretty girls. The people are dumb but they have money. Just threaten them a bit and they'll cave in. Why would you go through so much trouble for just this one girl? What do you know? It's is called having good taste. Su Bing viciously glared at the group of people. While he was starting to feel dissatisfied with the terrible taste of this group of boys, Su Bing raised his head and saw a young man wearing a black t-shirt, walking toward the pavilion with a cold aura surrounding him. This guy seems familiar. Crap, speak of the devil, isn't this the brother next door to the girl? This guy, I've been wanting to deal with him for the longest time for obstructing me from trying to hit on this girl. Who would have thought that you'd come to me by yourself? It just happens that there are quite a few of my brothers here today. We'll just let you have a taste of getting beaten and we'll see if you dare to stand up again in the future. Brothers, grab your weapons. Su Bing stood, his gaze interlocked with Amofan's cold eyes. The man with cowboy adornment, the young man with a cigarette hanging from his mouth, the man with the headphones, and the man wearing the jacket immediately stood up as they all looked to their side. Bro, we didn't bring weapons, The cigarette man moved closer to Su Bing's ear as he faintly whispered, "What the heck? Do you need weapons to deal with this thing? Beat him up real good. Per the instruction of Brother Zhao Kunsen, if we beat him up then it's on him." Su Bing slapped the talkative brothers on their forehead with his palm as he responded enraged. The man with the cigarette felt wronged. "You were the one who said to grab the weapons. It seems like it's just a wordplay." Since it's something Brother Zhao Kunsen has instructed before, the man with the jacket removed his jacket as he chuckled, revealing his white tank top and bustling muscles. Ammo Fan looked attentively at the five trash from Azura Bear Gang with a gaze that felt as though he was looking at a domesticated animal. Kid, let's put it like this. My interest in a girl like your sister is practically the luckiest thing in her life. Do you think anyone else is like me, Su Bing, who doesn't care that she's a cripple? There's no reason for a cripple to act like a goddess. If there's anyone who wants her, then you should burn the money and thank Buddha." Su Bing pointed at Ammo Fan as he revealed his true intentions. Su Bing's patience had run out after all these years. "Look at me, Su Bing. I have the looks and the strength." Within the Guangxi district, he was quite the character. If Yazingxia were to follow me, she would be able to live well whether she has it good or bad, and she'd always have minions at her service. The point is, learn to appreciate favors. Now, obediently call me brother-in-law. Seeing how we're going to be a family, we will be gentle with you. This way, we can tell Zhao Kunsen and Mubai we beat you up. If you're still resisting, then we'll break your leg so you can be a cripple along with your sister," the muscular man with a white tank top commanded. After hearing this, Ammo Fan's chest began heaving violently. He glanced at the pavilion. In the middle of the pavilion, there was a lone wheelchair with poker cards on top of the seat. Originally, Ammo Fan was extremely angry from seeing these dregs using Yazingxia's wheelchair as a table for playing poker. However, now that he had heard these humiliating insults from Su Bing, Ammo Fan felt as though his chest was about to explode. A cripple? A cripple? I, Ammo Fan, have pledged a vow. If someone were to ever say this kind of stuff to Yazingxia, then I will make sure they will regret being reincarnated as a human. Stop wasting time with this kid. Go beat him up. I, alone, am enough to deal with him. Brothers, you just stand to the side and watch." The muscular man in white tank top began cracking his fist. Ammo Fan looked at them with extremely icy eyes. However, as they were messing around here, they didn't notice one thing. He was forging a vicious purple-colored lightning path within his eyes. The star path contained a tremendous lightning force that was about to erupt like a volcano under Ammo Fan's rage. "Do you really think I'm still the same Ammo Fan who you can take advantage of?" A restless force began to tremble in the atmosphere around Ammo Fan. It was like fully armed soldiers who were waiting for the commands from their general. "You, who isn't even on the same level as a domesticated animal, are just in time to taste the flavor of lightning." The moment the angry voice transmitted from his throat, the 7 stars formed and became a star path, causing the power from the lightning stardust to gather within Ammo Fan's right arm. Bzzzt. An astonishing arc of lightning sparked across Ammo Fan's body like a python. In the next second, the restless lightning in the atmosphere began to assemble within Ammo Fan's right arm, emitting an ear-piercing noise. Heavens! What is that? Why is there lightning crackling around his body? This kid, heavens, he's a mage. Among these people, Su Bing was the one who had seen the most of the outside world. Mage was set in certainty. This group was certainly famous ruffians within the Guangxi district, and yet, ruffians still relied on punches and kicks. In front of a real magician, they weren't even enough to be called dregs. How could he be a mage? Su Bing and the group of people were exceedingly scared by the incredibly shocking scene in front of them. In their perspective, if one could leave a mark after punching a tree, then one would have an incredible existence within the ruffians. However, They have never met someone whose body was enshrouded by a crackling lightning arcs. Everything within the circumference of a few meters looked just like a destroyed high-voltage area. Incorporeal power pressured them, causing their entire bodies to feel numb. Lightning force, lightning strike. All the invocations were complete. This time, Amofen was genuinely using the primary rank skill, lightning strike. He suddenly raised his arm with his palm, facing the sky. All the trembling lightning arcs in the surroundings emitted a sharp sound. They were just like a group of elemental warriors in a purple-colored armor who had just received a command as they suddenly unsheathed their weapons. Annihilate them. With the unfathomable rage, Amofen relied on a feeling to control the lightning force that heeded his commands. He ferociously gripped his fist. An arc-like lightning element emerged and shot towards Su Bing, who was standing at the very front, as well as towards the muscular man's location. The lightning arc came forth from the high altitude. Every strike was like a whip filled with immense power, whipping Su Bing and the muscular man to the floor. While at the same time, it left behind strands of marks as it continued to whip them on the floor. Pshhhtt. Su Bing, as well as the muscular man, was beaten down to the floor. Just a while ago, they were still putting on airs, but now, in the moment the lightning strike fell on them, flesh lacerated from their back, skin burning to a crisp. They wanted to scream out in pain, but not a sound came from them. The lightning strike's strands of power were like small pythons, scurrying around their body. Every time it scurried, one could see Su Bing and the muscular man twitch in pain. Pudong. After feeling this dreadful power, the man with the cigarette was so frightened that he began to kneel on the floor. His body unconsciously began to tremble. The man in the cowboy adornment was completely dumbstruck. It was as though he was turned into a statue. Although the man with headphones was just standing there, without getting hit by the lightning strike, his jeans were completely soaked. It even started dripping down on his shoes. In the pavilion, on the hill, there was an unimaginable purple energy flashing magnificently before it quickly disappeared into nothing. There was a scorched smell pervading the air. There was even some charring on the plants in the surroundings. There were two people laying on the ground. They were acutely twitching. Their appearances were too horrible to look at. The insufferably arrogant attitude of the Guangxi district's ruffians was nowhere to be seen. The other three people were thoroughly scared. Big Brother Amofen. Seeing as how we grew up in the same district, could you spare us? We will never do this again. The man with the cigarette had been so scared that his soul had dispersed. In his eyes, the 16-year-old youth in front of him was even scarier than the demons in his nightmares. You are an honorable mage. You don't need to lower yourself to the same level as drakes like us. I beg of you, don't do anything to us. The man in cowboy adornment said with a trembling voice. Seeing the appearances of Su Bing and the muscular man, it was just too terrifying. The man in cowboy adornments didn't want to become like them. The whiff of rage accompanied with the completely released lightning strike was slowly settling down to the bottom of Amofen's heart. He looked at the miserable Su Bing and the muscular man and glanced at the other three people who were completely terrified. Take them to the hospital, Amofen said as he calmed down. The truth was even Amofen couldn't imagine that the primary rank skill of lightning element, lightning strike, would have a might that immense. This was my first time actually activating it. If I can become even more proficient at it and be able to increase my accuracy in controlling it, I won't waste a single bit of that scattered energy during the activation. I'm afraid the perfected lightning strike would directly cause the 5 people to die from the explosion. So far, so good. However, there were no casualties out of this, or else things would become complicated. Yes. We'll go now. The cowboy looked at this young mage's rage settling down. He acted as if he obtained a new life. The other two didn't dare to think too much about it. They hurriedly supported the 2 paralyzed people on the ground. The result was, as soon as they touched the two men, the remaining lightning arcs transmitted into their arms from the bodies, causing them to tremble in fear. Call an ambulance. You'll handle the medical fees yourselves. Amofan said indifferently. I'll call them now. I'll call them now. Amofan's rage had already dispersed. In fact, his mind still had some enthusiasm which was hard to conceal. Right now, Amofan was like a god-killing existence for them. How could he display his extremely joyful appearance to these fools? After walking to the inside of the pavilion, Amofan swept away the cards from the wheelchair. He picked up the wheelchair and followed the stairs back down. These three people were still looking at Amofan with fear lingering in their hearts. Suddenly, Amofan spun around. The three people were scared and hastily took a step back. Oh right, if someone were to ask, tell them that these two tried to steal electricity. If you dare to spread the matter of me being a mage, I'll have you shut up forever. Either way, I heard the police won't make it difficult for a mage who accidentally kills someone. Especially the drakes of society who provoked a mage. Amofan thought of it and turned around to warn these people. The three people nodded their head as though they were pounding garlic. They couldn't be more obedient. Regarding Zhao Kunsen and Mubai, with your IQ, I believe you know what to say, right? Amofan said as he left in a carefree manner. We didn't see you. You're smart. I'll think of the matter as done, this time. If there's anything in the future, you can come and find me. You've seen my abilities already. Yes, yes, yes. Big brother Amofan, take care. The three bent over as they nodded their head with fear and reverence. Amofan nodded as he picked up the wheelchair and left. First, you need to ruthlessly beat them up, then you give them a little bit of benefit. Amofan believed these lads wouldn't dare be rash, and believed they wouldn't spread the word of this matter to the outside. On one side, he has become a lightning element magician that was able to activate his skills. On the other side, it was the apprentice-level Mubai. I believe these guys understand how to stand for themselves. However, Amofan was already clear on the fact that these five people were just lackeys for Mubai and Zhao Kunsen. When the time comes, I'll still pay those two bastards back what they deserve. Following the stone steps downwards, Amofan finally couldn't help but to laugh out loud. A few years ago, he was just a normal student in a classroom who would occasionally look at the world outside of the window, due to the dullness from the history class. Occasionally, he would also daydream about suddenly being faced with a gust of wind and flying upwards, his foot lightly treading on the flagpole, soaring through the blue sky and the distant back mountain of the school. He imagined encountering a brute that could cause himself to be thoroughly enraged. When he met fiends and numerous villains, his hands were able to congregate a special force that could directly defeat them. Who would have thought that he was able to have a small taste of this today? With the lightning force in his hands, the five ruffians who used to bully him became like stray dogs. This has never happened before, and the feeling was fantastic. It was like a dream. Lightning element, lightning strike is indeed impressive. I wonder what kind of power the fire element's primary rank skill, Flame Burst, holds. There's still half a year before the annual magic examination. I should have enough time to grasp the fire element's primary rank skill, Fire Burst. Amofan got excited. The lightning element's primary rank skill, Lightning Strike, was indeed ferocious. I wonder how the other elements' skills are. Moreover, Amofan knew that the primary rank skills are the lowest type of magic. After the primary, there's also intermediate and high rank. Right. The wind element teacher did mention it during the first class. The wind element's high rank skill, Wind Wings, gives you the ability to soar through the sky. Damn, if I'm able to learn Wind Wings, then I'd be able to go anywhere. After a long while, Amofan was still having difficulties holding down his excitement. His mind was incessantly processing the magic knowledge he learned. He wanted to know what other heaven-defying skills the mages could be in possession of. On the still swing was the long-haired, perfectly straight-nosed young girl with her head slightly turned upwards. She was carefully observing the pavilion whose view was blocked by trees. The purple ray just now, Yazinxia murmured to herself. She saw a magnificent purple-colored light like a remnant of a shooting star flashing by the pavilion. Although it quickly dissipated, it was still an astonishing scene that left a mark in people's heart. Is it a mage? Yazinxia thought to herself. She had a really hard time imagining that there'd be a mage in a city area this small. However, why would a mage appear in the same location as Emofan and the group of ruffians, and they even used genuine magic? Is Big Brother Emofan all right? At this moment, Yazinxia was feeling nervous. She subconsciously bit the side of her lip. At last, the familiar figure appeared on the small, stone staircase. He was carrying her wheelchair, and his face had a trace of a silly smile. As long as there's no trouble, then it's fine. Yazinxia's heart finally settled down. Zinxia, I have already dealt with those people. They won't bother you anymore. Emofan placed the wheelchair in front of Yazinxia. I saw lightning. It seems to be the primary rank skill of lightning element, lightning strike, Yazinxia said. As Emofan heard this, he began to feel a sense of pride. However, he smiled without saying a word. He used his broken eyes to look at Yazinxia. Yazinxia felt something wasn't right. She carefully thought about it before astonishment flashed in her eyes. The one activating lightning strike was Big Brother Emofan. Emofan didn't admit to it. He just stood there with a smile. It really was you. Big Brother Emofan is a mage, Yazinxia said with a hint of disbelief. Haha, you are the first person to witness my true power, Emofan said suddenly with a headstrong tone in before Yazinxia's delicate and cute face. Yazinxia didn't anticipate the sneak attack. A red flush immediately filled her cheeks. It even reached down to her neck. Only then did Emofan realize that he was being a bit too relaxed. He hastily began to explain, I'm sorry, I got a bit too excited. Yazinxia replied with a low voice. Then, did you really become a mage? Emofan nodded. Our teacher said only 1 out of 1,000 can awaken lightning element. The primary level of lightning element holds a great advantage, so much of it can be said to be the best primary ranked element. In this moment, Yazinxia began to feel happy for Emofan. Yazinxia was clear on the situation at home, even more so after she became a member of the family and gave Uncle Emojixing more unnecessary pressure. According to Auntie, Uncle Emojixing had already sold their house. It seems as if their poverty had reached a definite point. Both her and Emofan were still young. It's difficult for them to help Emojixing. What Emofan could do was study hard and become a genuine mage. Only then would they be able to relieve the current family crisis. It seems like Big Brother Emofan was indeed amazing. He had unexpectedly learned magic in such a short period of time. That's not right. Suddenly, Yazinxia came to a realization. She looked at Emofan with her beautiful eyes which hinted that she wanted to say something. Emofan replied in earnest, What's wrong? It hasn't even been half a year since you awakened. According to what is known, even people who have a high innate talent require nearly a year to completely activate the primary rank skills, Yazinxia said. Emofan was dumbstruck. No way, even people with a high innate talent need nearly a year's worth of time to go from awakening to activation. Then, me being able to completely use the primary skills after half a year is indeed a bit too quick. The thing was, Emofan didn't know anything about this. That blockhead Mubai was already able to grasp 4 or 5 stars. From how he saw it, wasn't it normal that he, himself, could already activate magic? However, why did Yazinxia's surprised face give off the feeling as if she was looking at a monster? Could it be that being able to learn the primary rank skill within half a year was an extremely abnormal thing in this world? Though possess a high innate talent in even someone that possess high innate talent needs a year. What kind of level does that speak of? Amofan cautiously asked. Amofan didn't want to expose the fact that he knew almost nothing about this world. Muningxiu is considered the most talented person within our Bo City. Her talent even surpasses numerous genius-level students in the Empire. However, she needed 8 months to go from the awakening to learning the ice element's primary skill. Yazingxia said. 8 months. Amofan felt a bit stunned when he heard this. What kind of existence was Muningxiu? She was the only person who was directly recruited by the Empire Institution in the entirety of Bo City. She's also the most beloved person of the entire Mu clan. She had received the entire Mu clan's inherited magic training methods. The kind of resources which a common mage would never receive in their entire life. The reason behind her being viewed as an important figure, as well as her astonishing magic talent, was closely related to that. Even an extremely arrogant person like her needed 8 months to go from awakening to the activation of primary magic. What about Amofan, who only needed 5 months? Holy crap. Holy crap. Amofan felt his heart viciously surging. If Muningxiu shocked the world with 8 months and was classified as a heavenly genius by the people, wouldn't his own 5 months be completely heaven-defying? Big brother Amofan, did you learn something bad? I heard from an old scholar that this kind of cultivation speed is only possible with people from the Black Church, Yazingxia whispered. The Black Church had some demonic magic method that could substantially raise a mage's cultivation speed. Yazingxia really couldn't think of any other way that could allow someone to complete primary magic in just a short 5 months, even though Yazingxia knew her big brother Amofan's intelligence surpasses others. The Black Church. How is that possible? Is that so? Oh, right. I actually didn't awaken on the day of opening ceremony. I got to know an old man way before that. He told me, kid, I see that your bones are unusually good. Your talent exceeds others. Why don't you let me teach you magic? And at that time, I asked who he was. He told me was a member of the Magic City's Magic Association. He could help me awaken in advance. In short, I actually didn't learn magic in 5 months. Amofan reacted by quickly explaining this. As Yazingxia listened to his explanation, she became confused. However, she still replied with a big smile, "Oh, so you actually awakened in advance." Awakening too early would cause side effects to the cultivation. However, if it's the people from the Magic Association, then there shouldn't be any large issues. As Amofan saw that Yazingxia no longer asked any questions, he finally sighed in relief. Sheet, I really am a monster. It seems like I shouldn't reveal too many things before I completely understand this world. Is it true it's only those from the Black Church that can finish their cultivation in 5 months? Amofan asked faintly. Yes. Yazingxia nodded in sincerity. Amofan felt cold sweat. Being too amazing wasn't a good thing. Originally, Amofan wanted to surprise Yazingxia with the fact that he also possessed the fire element. However, now it seemed like it would be better to not be reckless while he still hadn't understood the circumstances. I should go back and consult the books first and fully understand the situation, just to have some warranty. If not, I'll be branded as someone from the Black Church and then be dealt with. After taking Yazingxia back to her aunt's place and having dinner with them, Amofan wanted to continue practicing the lightning element magic. However, when he began to do his usual practice on control, he began to feel a headache. So bad it was as though his head was splitting apart. It was the kind of feeling that was like playing League of Legends for 3 days straight without sleep in an internet cafe. It was as though his entire being was about to drop dead. What kind of situation is this? It's the feeling of having a low spirit. Is it because I used lightning strike twice today? Is it due to lightning element's magic being excessively used that lead to me feeling spiritually fatigued? Is there a mistake? If we count in the time in the bus where I didn't completely activate it, then I've only used lightning strike twice today, and that caused my damn mana to be completely drained. Originally, I thought spending 5 months worth of time to meditate would cause the magic capacity within my stardust to be tremendous. Who would have thought that using lightning strike twice would cause the entire lightning element stardust to feel completely dismal? The lightning element's stardust used to be gorgeous and colorful within the spiritual world. The purple radiance reflected by the 7 stars were like a beautiful painting of the starry sky. However, right now, the stardust lost its radiance as it sunk into the darkness. At first, Amofan was slightly scared. Fortunately, after he loosened up and started to rest, the lightning stardust began to slowly recover its radiance, although very slowly. It seems like the stardust isn't bright enough. Every time I use magic, the stardust will lose a bit of its radiance. When the stardust is completely dark, it means the energy within it has been completely used up. The stardust contains magic energy. No wonder why the homeroom teacher, Shui Mushin, would stress all day, saying, even if it's boring, you still need to maintain meditation. If a talented mage doesn't diligently meditate, they could become mediocre. These words could basically mean, so what if your skill is incredible? If you don't have the mana, then you're just a dreg. Forget it, let's not think about this. I should hurry up and sleep or else I'll really pass out. As he was holing up in his room, he slept until dawn. Yazinxia was lovable. It was almost noon, yet she didn't wake him up. Amofan got out of his bed feeling energetic. He easily entered a meditative state and scanned his own stardust. He discovered that most of the stardust was shining brightly. It'd probably completely recover its former radiance very soon. Oh right, I shouldn't reveal my lightning element to outsiders. Although this is a society governed by law, it could still cause people to be jealous. An example would be the Mu family, which is capable of covering the heavens with the point of a finger. It seems like I still need to cultivate the fire element, this way it'd be easier to fool other people. Amofan brushed his teeth as he pondered over this question. However, I only have so much energy in a single day. How can I cultivate the lightning element while I cultivate the fire element as well? The reason as to why Amofan was able to activate the lightning element's skill in just a mere 5 months was because he spent all of his cultivation time on the lightning element. No matter how fascinating and charming the fire element was, Amofan still remained single-minded toward the lightning element. The annual magic examination is in roughly half a year. If I don't want to reveal the lightning element's power this early, then I ought to concentrate all of my attention on cultivating the fire element in the next school semester and reach the point where I can activate the primary skill of fire element. Although, if I were to do this, then that'd mean the progress of lightning element would be at a standstill for half a year. I need to meditate. The stardust won't become stronger without a reason. Amofan made a few adjustments to his meditation schedule. There was a bit more than 6 months left before the annual magic examination. Amofan planned to distribute 10 hours of what he could handle every day, 8 hours on cultivating the fire element and 2 hours to gently grow the lightning element. This way, the lightning element's growth may be very slow, but it will at least maintain his proficiency in control. Spending 8 hours every day to cultivate the fire element was already much greater compared to students who were only capable of meditating for 5 hours. His aunt, Mo Qing, came back home from work during lunch. Aunt Mo Qing is the most normal woman ever. She's thin with a yellow face, and she was a very good person. Amofan, you're back. I've heard from your dad that you're fully concentrating on cultivating at Tianlan Magic High. You must really do your best. If you are able to become a primary mage, then you'd bring honor to the ancestors of our Amo family. Amo Qing said. A primary mage, and I'd be bringing honor to the ancestors. How many generations have we been poor? Sigh, I don't know if I am ready. Where's your husband? Why haven't I seen him around? Amofan asked. He's delivering goods to the hunters in the mountains. I really don't understand how a normal person like him could possibly have the courage to go into the mountains. If he were to encounter a magical beast, it could swallow him in one gulp. Amo Ching complained. Aren't the magical beasts in the primitive mountains quite a distance from our city? Amo Fan said. This world was different from the world he was familiar with. Outside of the city, in the magic world resided numerous magical beasts that threatened the lives of humankind. Not even to mention, common people were afraid of setting foot in those areas. Even magicians tended to lose their lives out there. Haven't you seen the warning issued by the Hunters Union? Recently, the magical beasts have gotten restless. There have many been signs of magical beasts emerging outside of our Bo City. Thus, they have especially been warning the normal folks to not take a step outside of the safety zones. Amo Ching said. Isn't that a bit too much? Amo Fan said with a smile. Although Amo Fan was new to this, he still read a lot of books. The magical beasts are generally far away from the cities where humans reside. Moreover, there were renowned organizations like the Magic Association, Hunters Union, and large magic families who cleaned up on a regular basis to ensure the safety of the people within the city. You've studied so much that you've become dumb. Think about it. Which mayor doesn't want their city to prosper in peace? Even if magical beasts were to invade, they would still say the situation is under their control in order to avert panic. The truth is, there have always been magical beasts in the vicinity of the city. There are even some within the city. It's just we, the common people, don't really see them. Amo Ching whispered. Amo Fan was surprised as he heard this, but he still said with a forced smile, "And, you're too paranoid. Little boy, you still won't believe me. Then, let me tell you something that actually happened. This happened. Don't say that your aunt loves listening to gossip all day. You should know that I work in the hospital's logistics department." Uh-huh. Amo Fan nodded. Fortunately, Mo Ching didn't say she was working at some sacred institution, or else Mo Fan's balls would really hurt as he wouldn't know anything. There was an evening where I went to deliver medicine for wounds to the doctor in charge. However, there was a person in the operation room who seemed to be a healing element mage. He chewed out our Dr. Wang saying, even if you are a healing element apprentice, you shouldn't be so stupid to not know how to differentiate poison marsh and poison water. Also, these people are under a demonic spell, which is why they look lifeless. Go, 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 don't be a burden here. Go find the people from the Hunters Union and have them find the evil-eyed marsh beast, or else there'll be more injured people in this area. Amo Ching moved closer. She spoke with a very cautious tone to Amo Fan. As Amo Fan saw Amo Ching's expression, he didn't feel like she was making things up. Don't tell me the magical beasts are actually so close to the city, with some being within the city. This is quite scary. Magical beasts were monsters that eat people. If you were to come across one, then death would certainly be imminent. Will your husband be okay seeing as how he went into the mountains? Amo Fan asked. Who would have known that there'd be light-colored warnings outside of the city? It indicates that the residents shouldn't carelessly wander deep into the mountains. He kept saying that the hunter squad lost some supplies while they were following the tracks of a one-eyed magical wolf and that he had to personally deliver it. He's just a logistics employee, yet, he even has the guts to do this kind of life-threatening work. Your dad, no matter what I told him, still wouldn't listen. Amo Ching answered. My dad went as well. Amo Fan's face immediately changed. Yeah, they said it would pay a lot. Even mage apprentices are too afraid to receive their call, yet, these two normal people. If nothing happens, then that's fine. However, if something really were to happen, what'll happen to us? Amo Ching said. Auntie, don't worry. They must have considered this already. There won't be any problems. They're just delivering it to a designated outpost, and the roads from the city to the outpost are still within the safe zone, Yazingxia said from the side. Either way, I just wish the two would just obediently do their job within the city. I get worried when they leave the city, Amo Ching whispered once again. After hearing Amo Ching's complaints, Amo Fan began to have a bad feeling. Father hasn't come to my school to see me for the past 6 months. It turns out he picked a different road. He went to deliver goods to the hunter magicians patrolling outside. This job is indeed very dangerous compared to his former job where he'd only deliver goods to wealthy people. Although it's winter break, Amo Fan wasn't free at all. After staying at Auntie's place for a few days, Amo Fan returned to Tianlan Magic High's library. The library had the information he needed to replenish, for example, the black church which he missed out on. Amo Fan understood what kind of thing the black church was after reading about it. Those guys are similar to the terror organizations, a large, evil cult. They frequently did things that would harm the safety of the people. Additionally, for the sake of their own goals, they would even use living people as cultivation material. The country was not lenient on insane things like that, naturally. In the coming month, Amo Fan wholeheartedly meditated. After knowing the lightning element's stardust would dry up and turn completely dark after only using lightning strike twice, Amo Fan began to understand the importance of meditation. Thus, this entire month, despite how great the temptation of activating fire element's skill, Fire Burst, Amo Fan didn't rashly try to come in contact with fire element's star. He must solidify his foundation first. As he was engrossed in meditation and treated all of this as a habit, the time passed very quickly. Soon enough, it became the start of the school again. Inside the library, Amo Fan swept off the cobwebs that covered his body, ready to meet the new magic school term. In a high spirit, Amo Fan walked into the classroom and sat down in a seat at the very back, just like always. There's something wrong today. Amo Fan looked at Zhang Ziahe next to him and discovered this lad didn't look all right. Normally, this guy's expression would be just like a curious little monkey, a clever one. Moreover, he would incessantly tell Amo Fan about his past few days during class. Today, however, his eyes looked dull, his mouth was slightly open, and his face was filled with an unfathomable intoxicated gaze as he looked toward the front. As he looked around his surroundings, the two study Rex, Su Qinglan and Lu Xiaobing were showing the same expression. It was as though they were being possessed. Sheet, don't tell me what Auntie said really is true. There is a one-eyed magical wolf within the city and these lads have all been infected by it. Good morning, class. The teacher for your practical magic class has fallen ill and is currently at home recuperating. From today on, I will be in charge of everyone's practical magic classes. My name is Tang Yu. A mature, beautiful and bright sound resounded. After being accustomed to the hoarse and slow voice of an old man, the sudden appearance of a mature woman's voice with a charming and the sexy tune swept past like the spring wind brushing the grounds. This caused the slightly tired Amo Fan to immediately wake up. He raised his head as he searched for the origins of the voice with expectation. Amo Fan's eyes were starstruck and his expression appeared enchanted. What the hell? Who cares about the evil-eyed marsh monster that can confuse people's hearts? It's evident that the souls of the males with the exuberant hormones were attracted by this newly arrived, extraordinarily beautiful female teacher. This teacher, Tang Yu, wore a standard, black suit. In between the outer black suit and the white shirt on the inside were a bulging, majestic, and glamorous mountain peaks that were about to burst. This made Amo Fan wonder whether the little buttons on the chest was really capable of holding up this turbulent wave. Annoying. This really is annoying. The early morning has always been the time where the young men are at their most violent. As they were stimulated like this, I reckon the majority will have a rather shameful appearance. It's been half a year since you awakened, and there's not a single person who has been able to use their magic. However, I hope you understand that being able to control an immense power does not signify that you know how to use it. If you don't properly control your powers, then they'll backfire on you, Mrs. Tanya quickly entered her teaching state. Originally, the teacher's earnest and solemn attitude caused many little tyrants to come back to their senses. Who would have known that the second she turned around after writing some important segments on the blackboard, the entire class would get nosebleeds? What a disaster! Bulging and round, Amofan was definitely a normal male student. At this moment, the exact same scene came to his head. Ahem. How could one let one's imagination run wild in a sacred school? Either way, Amofan wholeheartedly wanted to study. Amofan was definitely not the same as this group of people who only thought with their lower body. In any case, I definitely won't wear tight pants to the practical magic classes again. Not every organism is capable of being like a climbing tiger, move around the obstacle and continue what they're doing. The practical magic classes went on for the entire morning. After finishing theory, Tanya brought everyone to the field, personally showing everyone the essential keys to magic activation. Amofan also earnestly listened to this class. For example, what Mrs. Tanya had said concerning the magic activation link. Amofan have already experienced it. It's just, he didn't understand how the buttons on the front of Mrs. Tanya's chest were so durable. It's been so long yet they still hadn't burst. Naturally, the school field isn't supposed to be used for radio calisthenics. The field was actually just the practice grounds. They had been divided into several independent spaces using a magic barrier which Amofan didn't understand. All the overflowing power would be absorbed by the transparent barrier. This was to prevent harming the students who didn't have any kind of ability. Look closely. I will demonstrate the primary skill of fire element, fire burst. Tanya stood in the middle of the students. The students assembled into a half-arc, scattered behind Mrs. Tanya. Whether everyone really was watching Mrs. Tanya's hand seals was something that no one was sure of. Fire burst, it's the skill of fire element. Brother Amofan, wipe your saliva, it's your element's skill. Never did I think that Mrs. Tanya, who looked so tender and virtuous, would actually be a fire mage. Zhang Ziyahe nudged the Amofan beside him. Oh, I want to learn this. Only then did Amofan come back to his senses. Currently, Tanya maintained an extremely straight posture as she calmly stood there. Her elegant, curvy physique outlined the slightly tight skirt which people felt was particularly moving. Perhaps it was because she was new to teaching, that was why her selection of clothing seemed a bit too hasty, resulting in this. This really gave the students a feast for their eyes. You have to meditate, be tranquil, and concentrate. Even if I am speaking to you right now, my mentality is wholeheartedly concentrated on the fire element nebula within me. Oh, I mean stardust. Mrs. Tanya said. Mrs. Tanya's voice was transmitted to every student's ears. When everyone thought Mrs. Tanya was standing still as a statue, a sudden fluctuation could be seen from her pear blossom hair. There was not a single thread of wind in the field. However, her hair looked as though she was on a steamer, causing it to scatter around. Control. At this moment, you need to call out so your star can obey your commands and open the doors of the fire element magic. Mrs. Tanya's tone changed from its usual softness to a solemn one. It carried a hint of an arrogance which stated that everything should burn down before her. In this instant, all the males, with their heads filled with dirty thoughts, immediately became dumbstruck. Their eyes widened as they looked at this beautiful female teacher with shock. Aura. That's right, they felt a scorching aura emitting from Mrs. Tanya's body, swelling over everyone's faces. There was shock, reverence, and a certain intimidating presence that prevented people from having any form of wicked thoughts. Everyone initially thought the newly arrived Mrs. Tanya would be your average teacher, be able to give everyone a messy theory lesson just like the old guy before her. When it came to them being able to personally activate magic, there might even be a mistake in what she taught. However, the young Tanya in front of them seemed to have been able to control this power for a very long time. She was able to teach while she controlled the star. After she finished her magic incantations, the emerging fire's intensity was on a completely different level compared to the old man. It was like comparing a small fire to a pillar of flames. Remember, after you've finished the arrangement of the stars, you can't relax your thoughts. You must immediately focus on the position of your activation. That dignified voice resounded once more. Searing flames. The sound was like a magical bell, ringing inside everyone's mind. While at the same time, a dazzling scarlet-red star path emerged around Mrs. Tanyu's body before it quickly condensed within her jade-like right hand. Following this, a fiery red power rapidly grew on her half-gripped hands. It was incomparably violent. With all of her might, she used her arm to throw it. The flame shot out like an arrow and gave off a scarlet-red delicacy. After that, it became like a bullet, accurately and unmistakably penetrating the body of the puppet. Gone. How come nothing happened? It hit the target though. The atmosphere grew silent for a period of time. The puppet, which was hit by fire burst, didn't have any kind of reaction, while Mrs. Tanyu's aura was the complete opposite. Within the confusion, Mrs. Tanyu slowly turned around and faced the entire 48 students of the class with her somewhat young and tender face. However, the corner of her mouth gave off a smirking smile that displayed her high self-confidence. Wee-oo. Suddenly, a shocking scarlet red burst forth from the within of the puppet. It absolutely was not one of those slow ignitions, it was a violent flutter. It looked like something that was able to burn everything in one breath. The intact human-like puppet from just now was engulfed by a scarlet red flame in just an instant. Was it 1 second or 2? The fire everyone knew of usually fluttered about. However, this flame was hungry like a wild beast swallowing food. It hadn't even been 2 seconds before the entire human-shaped puppet was completely engulfed into nothingness. The gaudy scarlet light reflected in Mrs. Tanyu's beautiful pear blossom hair. Her fair-skinned face was increasingly captivating at the moment. The smile from the corner of her mouth, along with the reckless fire behind her back, enhanced the already stunningly beautiful teacher. There was one way to describe this appearance: unrealistically beautiful. All 48 students of the class were completely starstruck. Amofan didn't know how other people felt about this, but he felt his own heart throbbing. Not only because this teacher was beautiful and charming, but when she wore the power of the flames, her body exuded a grandeur confidence. His own blood rose, accompanied by worship, infatuation, and reverence. If a woman is only beautiful, she'll cause men to have a wild imagination. However, this woman had grasped the authority and power which other people were unable to touch upon. This woman was like poison. Men were just unable to free themselves from her. Only the heavens knew how many guys have set Mrs. Tanyu as their goddess for life after seeing this scene. Even Amofan was completely subdued by her temperament. Although they were both teachers in practical magic, the old man's magic activation was lifeless. It caused the people watching to feel drowsy. Mrs. Tanyu's activation caused people to engrave it onto their hearts, making them feel excited and unable to calm themselves. They were on completely different levels. All right, who are the fire element students in our class? Let me note them down. Mrs. Tanyu seemed to regard the gazes of worship from students as something normal as she continued to teach her class. I'm a fire element user. A girl whose face carried a heroic spirit took the initiative and stood up. She was Suman, who gave rise to small disturbances during the opening ceremony. Suman's eyes were constantly fixated on Mrs. Tanyu. In fact, Suman didn't like her in the beginning. How could there be a teacher who would wear clothes that attracted this much attention and possessed a voice so gentle and beautiful? However, after seeing Mrs. Tanyu finish a flame burst, Suman's heart did a complete 180, and her heart gave birth to a sense of worship. Suman's mother was also a teacher. However, she was sure that her own mother was unable to do the same thing as Mrs. Tanyu. Whether it was the aura, intensity, accuracy, or the power. I am one too, Mrs. Tanyu. I am also a fire element user. My name is Huang Fifeng. The other male student who had awakened the fire element jumped out. Look at this Huang Fifeng's excited expression. Who didn't know that if the practical magic teacher had the same element as you, then it'd be like having a small stove, with the master passing useful things on to their disciples. Huang Fifeng felt extremely lucky. He had unexpectedly become Mrs. Tanyu's disciple. Who could say if Mrs. Tanyu would appreciate his talent in the future and give birth to feelings toward him? She was his own little dragon maiden. Don't stand in my way, I'm going to the roof. Why didn't I awaken the fire element? Why? Lu Xiaobing, who awakened the water element, was making loud noises as he cried. Teacher, I am also a fire element user. My name is Zhao Daniu. A little man who stuttered stood up. As his eyes met Mrs. Tanyu's, his face turned completely red. Amo Fan sighed. You could tell with one glance that it was just an average bean sprout that no one cared for. As Mrs. Tanyu looked at this little man, she chuckled as she said, "You're clearly very thin and weak. Why did your family name you Big Cow?" My body is weak. Father and mother wished for me to become sturdy, like a big cow. Then you should be named Zhao Blabbermouth. Zhao Kunsen and his clever mouth immediately mocked. What Zhao Kunsen was mocking was naturally Zhao Daniu's stutter. Are there more? Mrs. Tanyu's gaze swept over. There's only 3 fire element users in a single class. That's too little. Judging by their aura, it seemed like there was only the girl called Zhou Human whose talent was slightly better, and her cultivation pace was also not bad. There's also me. My name is Amo Fan. Amo Fan came back to his senses and walked out from the crowd of people. Mrs. Tanyu's perceptive eyes fell on Amo Fan's body. While she was probing Amo Fan's aura, her lips couldn't help but open up. Amo Fan, you sure have the guts to stand up. A school semester has gone by, yet you haven't been able to control a single fire element star. Your star is still dark, so much so that you can't even see it yet. Don't try to act like you're something. Zhao Kunsen immediately said. There was a test during the end of the last semester. This test was to check the tempo of the students' cultivation. There were definitely no accidents occurring. Amo Fan's stardust wasn't any different from when he first awakened it. The entire class knew this, and that totally did not cause Zhao Kunsen and Mu by laughter. If you're an idiot, then you're an idiot. So what if he awakened the fire element? He would never become a mage in his entire lifetime. Your talent in the fire element is very good, so how come your cultivation is so low? Amo Fan, there are numerous people who wish to become a fire magician, and you already have an advantage which many people don't. You must put in the effort. Mrs. Tangyu looked at Amo Fan as she said in pity. I understand, Mrs. Tangyu. Amo Fan nodded. After going through meditation, a magician's spiritual force would become powerful. Its power would reach the point where they were able to perceive details which normal people couldn't. They would also be able to perceive the aura of another mage. Through the aura's intensity, one could roughly determine a magician's cultivation level. Amo Fan knew from the start it wasn't possible to hide his cultivation. However, there was this one thing. If Amo Fan were to conceal the power of the lightning element and only reveal the aura of the fire element, then others would only be able to sense the fire element's aura. Thus, they were only able to determine the fire element's cultivation level while being unable to sense the other element. That was why Amo Fan could normally just use the fire element to fool other people. The second I wanted to focus on the fire element, an amazing fire element teacher suddenly appeared at my door. It seems like there's hope for me to complete the activation of the primary skill, Fire Burst, before the big examination. Amo Fan's confidence immediately increased. Why is this woman looking at me with an odd expression? It seems like she's called Zhuman, the top student in the class and also a fire element user. Amo Fan was puzzled. I don't think I've ever offended this girl, Tsuman, so why is she looking at me with such a hostile gaze? On the other side, Joe-min brows creased. Seeing the study wreck called Mo-fan looking at her, she immediately and ferociously glared at him. Tsuman was unhappy, extremely unhappy. What qualifications does Mo-fan have to possess a better talent in fire element than me? The homeroom teacher, Shue Mushin, once said Mo-fan's talent in fire element was the best in the entire class. During the awakening, the flames were very clear, and now, this extremely amazing Mrs. Tangyu also commented on how his talent was good. Forget it. There's no need to get angry over this kind of study wreck. Either way, when the annual examination comes and he doesn't meet the qualifications, he'll be asked to leave school. This guy will have one last half year of leisure. I just really don't understand. It's obvious that his family situation isn't good. They sacrificed everything just so he could enter the Tianlan Magic High. Yet, after awakening the fire element, he's decadent and lazy. How is he able to face his family? Did a dog eat his consciousness? Thanks to Zhao Kunsen and Mu Bai, the entire class basically knew that Mo-fan was squeezed into the class. Your homeroom teacher has already spoken to me about the importance of the annual examination. First, if you don't meet the requirements, then you'll be asked to leave the school. Second, they'll divide you into different classes based on your grades. If you're placed in the elite class, then you'll obtain certain benefits that will give you an advantage on the Magic University's exams. Thus, this school semester, everyone should have no reason to not put in their utmost effort, Mrs. Tangyu said to everyone. Mrs. Tangyu, will you be teaching the elite class? A male student asked. Yeah, if everything goes according to the plans, I will be assigned to be the practical magic teacher for the elite class after I've finished teaching you. Tangyu slightly nodded her head. Teacher, Yangguo, Huang Fifeng will definitely do my best. Mrs. Tangyu, I want to follow you in the future as well. Tangyu maintained a gentle smile as she could tell that her first class today was pretty successful. The student's passion for studying has been lifted. Oh right, when any of you are able to control 7 stars, then you can come and find me in private. I will take some time off of my schedule to teach you some more, Tanya continued. Clamor. A wolf howl suddenly resounded from the class. 7 stars, it suddenly became the striving objective for everyone. I'm not too far from 7 stars, Mrs. Tangyu, wait for me. Are you for real? How many can you control? 2. Get lost. I can do 3, that's better than you dregs. Huan Fifeng said with his face filled with pride. 3 stars and you still have the face to stand here and act arrogant. I'm almost at 4, don't you know that it gets harder as you progress? Su Qinglan asked in disdain. That's funny, real funny. You groups of wastes, Mu Bai is already in control of 5 stars. In the next semester, he could spend 3 days fishing and 2 days browsing the internet and he's still able to reach 7 stars. The first one to work with Mrs. Tangyu will definitely be Mu Bai. Zhao Kunsen immediately said in ridicule. Sheet, Mu Bai is that amazing? 5 stars, how did he cultivate like that? That's too amazing. I heard that the most amazing student in the school, the 7th class's lightning student, has only been able to control 5 as well. Feeling the discussion surrounding him, Mu Bai felt his entire being beginning to float. However, in order to show his mature and collected temperament, Mu Bai wouldn't expose his approval for the compliments towards him. That would just make him look like a complete douche. This guy, Zhao Kunsen, he was a little stupid, and he was not reliable when it came to doing things. However, there was one thing that was very good about him. When the master wants attention, yet can't display it, Zhao Kunsen would jump in with the right timing. It's not like I can personally jump out and say this daddy can already control 5 every time someone is discussing 3 or 2 stars and then get shocked by 4 stars. That'd be cheap, too cheap, It doesn't conform with the temperament of being the young master of my family. If we put it in Zhao Kunsen's words, it fits perfectly well. This way he could show everyone he was amazing, and not diminish his manners. Life is like playing League of Legends. Not only do you have to be good at it, it is also very important for teammates to know how to conform to you. Hot air flowed over the mountains, engulfing the south and exchanging the embrace of spring for the humidity of summer. Following this came heavy rain, a good omen, destroying the leaves and leaving the flowers to wither. Bo City was regarded as a city with many seasons. However, sometimes it could get exceedingly unruly. Just this morning, the sun was fierce and illuminating. There was not a single cloud that could be seen for thousands of miles. The nap he took felt the same as the one with which he crossed worlds, a strange gust with the black clouds covering the entire sky. As it became evening, the torrential rain and wind became ice cold. Is there a storm coming? This crap weather, it is randomly happening all year round. It becomes whatever season it wants without skipping a beat. Zhang Ziyahe complained from within the dorms. Zhang Ziyahe, aren't you a wind element user? Come. You should go out into the storm and see if you can activate the primary skill of wind element, wind trail. Lu Xiaobing from the same dorm said. Don't you freaking have the water element? Why aren't you going out and showing the water barrier, oh magnificent water magician? You're still using an umbrella when you go out. Aren't you ashamed when you go out? Lu Xiaobing's face turned pale. Truly, a water element magician should technically have a wind jacket in the rain. The problem is, it's almost time for the annual examination. Lu Xiaobing could only control 4 stars, thus, there was still quite a distance from him being able to activate the water element skill, water barrier. Zhang Ziyahe, can you really use wind trail? Why don't you show us? The truth is, other than seeing that violent girl, Zhuman, using fire burst, we haven't seen anyone else in class use proper magic. The dorm head, who talked about his lewd thoughts about Mrs. Tanyu every day, said, It's not going so well. I can't guarantee the 100% succession. Zhang Ziyahe said with a slight shyness. Monkey, show it to us. I also want to see what the wind element skill looks like. Amo Fan eyes beamed as he put down the theory book in his hands. The place is too small. Use the hallway. The hallway is long enough. Okay, let me try. But I'm really not proficient at it. Zhang Ziyahe nodded his head. It's already the end of the term, and Zhang Ziyahe had quite the talent. He was one of the very small number of people in the class that could control 7 stars. Everyone was curious about the skills of every element. Naturally, they also wanted to see Zhang Ziyahe used his. Zhang Ziyahe closed his eyes and began to enter the activation state. He was really slow. It was clear that he wasn't very good at controlling the stars. He maintained the rhythm of his breathing, and the breathing was audible. Goosh. Suddenly, the books on the table began to move. The dormitory's old doors began to creak. The dust on the floor began to rise, and swirled the dirty underwear beneath the bed. As the boss of the dormitory was about to grab it, the underwear elegantly avoided his hands and floated unrestricted in the wind. Wind trail, fast stride. Zhang Ziyahe's entire temperament changed. An azure color emerged within his eyes as his lapel began to brandish. Along with his incantations, the toothbrush, cups, and clothing racks clattering about. They were all moving according to the trail. Amo Fan quickly composed himself to watch this scene. From these pieces of junk and the swirling dust, he surprisingly discovered an unusual airstream in the dormitory. This stream of air originated from Zhang Ziyahe's location. It spread all the way from the hall to the other side of the hallway's public toilet. Swoosh. Suddenly, Zhang Ziyahe's figure disappeared. The former unmoving Zhang Ziyahe standing in the center of the dormitory became as though he used the ripple tiny steps. The speed was as fast as a whirlwind as he frantically charged out of his dorm and followed the indiscernible wind track in the air that went toward the toilet at the end of the hallway. That's awesome. Lu Xiaobing yelled out. The group of people in the dormitory immediately squeezed themselves out the door and chased after Zhang Ziyahuo. However, as everyone exited their dorms, Zhang Ziyahe had already quickly shifted from the left side of the hallway to the very end of the hall. Too fast. Any 100-meter sprinter's speed would be pathetic compared to this movement. Amo fans felt a ripple in his heart. The wind element's primary skill was also really cool. The feeling of stepping onto the wind track must be amazing. Help! Help! Zhang Ziyahe called out. Peng! The hallway suddenly trembled. As Amo fan just finished his envying sigh, the Zhang Ziyahe in the distance hit the door of the public toilet. People began to laugh at him. The crooked faucet began to spray wildly, and a part of the toilet door was broken. A strong and fishy stink quickly spread out throughout the entire floor as there now was no door to prevent the smell. In a split second, cursing voices were heard. The wind track finally dissipated. Zhang Ziyahe was laying on the ground with his nose bleeding. This appearance was already pretty miserable. Unfortunately, the underwear that followed the flow of the wind lost the wind force and finally landed the poor guy's face. Lu Xiaobing and the dorm head hastily dragged Zhang Ziyahe back to his dorm. The dorm head took back his underwear and opened it to find a blood stain. Dorm head, I didn't know you also had menstruation periods. Lu Xiaobing cracked up. Get out of here. The dorm head reluctantly threw his beloved underwear into the bin. Amo fan silently retracted his head and returned to his bed before the residence manager charged over in a fury. He acted as though nothing had ever happened. The wind element's skill seems good. This movement speed was not any slower than that of a car. It's just Zhang Ziyahe hasn't met the standards. Thus, he didn't know how to pull over and stop. You group of brats. The annual examination is near, and you still aren't properly meditating. Instead, you're here doing these things. If I see this happening again, I'll skin you alive. The residence manager's roar spread across the entire hallway in this wind and rain. The annual examination had finally arrived, and for a lot of people, today was a nightmare. This was because there was a chance that they would be expelled from the school, and these people counted as the most tragic and most shameless who had to go back and meet their parents. However, studying magic was not a child's game. Every magic high system worked like this. If you were not suited to study magic, then you would be expelled early, giving them another way so they wouldn't continue to waste their time in the borderless magic sea. To those students who had been doing their best in cultivating, today was the day they could show their results. Particularly for those students who could already use their skills. The stormy days had already passed. The morning's weather was sunny, and the summer air was clear. Within the Mu Manor, Mu Bai specifically wore a white t-shirt with plum embroidery and iron trousers. His entire being gave off a low-profile feeling, not wanting to show off his family background. With his handsome exterior and his low-profiled outfit that didn't fail to show his elegance, he had already captured the affection of many girls. However, with him being a legitimate member of the Mu family, how could he fancy any of these common and vulgar women? His objective was a proud girl like Mu Ningxiu. Of course, if Mrs. Tanyu were willing to give in, he would be willing as well. Mu Bai, you have to show off today. You have to know that our Mu family will distribute a few cultivation resources to some of the young disciples. The distribution is based on the contribution of their family and the cultivation grades of the young disciples. You have to work hard for this branch family of yours that has almost been forgotten by the Mu family. He personally sent Mu Bai to school in his black limousine this morning. He was the supervisor of Tianlan Magic High. He personally arranged the annual examination today. No matter what, Mu Bai was still his nephew. He hoped for Mu Bai to give him some face in front of the other supervisors. Uncle, please don't worry. Mu Bai said with the utmost confidence. As he finished speaking, Mu Bai suddenly thought of something. He turned over and whispered, Uncle, I heard that Mu Ningxiu is also coming to Tianlan Magic High today. Yeah, Today is a very important day for Tianlan Magic High. It just happens that Muningxiu started her summer break early from the Empire Institution. I discussed with the family head and had her, the flag of Bo City, come to Tianlan Magic High to give you guys a lecture, take a look at the annual examinations this year, and have her evaluate the quality of the students, He said. Seeing Mu Bai bursting with life, He naturally knew what kind of ideas he had. He chuckled as he patted Mu Bai's shoulders. Don't worry, when it's your turn, I will have her watch with the family head. When the family head sees you working so hard, he might even distribute more cultivation resources to your family. You know how few disciples we have in our family, and the outstanding ones are rarer. If the family head notices you and you are given a Stardust Magic tool for 2 or 3 months, you'll reap many benefits. Stardust Magic tool. Really? I have a chance to use a Stardust Magic tool. Mu Bai's eyes radiated. Of course. Do you know why we are different from common magicians? Superior genes? Family influence? No matter how good these are, they aren't better than a Stardust Magic tool. If you can become a core disciple within the family, you have a chance to receive a Stardust Magic tool. Your cultivation will definitely be far higher than your peers in school. He said. Uncle, I will definitely do my best to show off. Cultivation being far higher than the peers in school. Mu Bai began to boil up. No wonder why these disciples of the family were frantically cultivating. It turns out it was for the Stardust Magic tools. Every magician has a limited amount of time to cultivate. For students like these, 5 hours of meditation was their limit, and the remaining time was for studying theory and knowledge. The Stardust Magic tool was an item which every magic cultivator yearns for the most. Mu Bai didn't know the principle behind the Stardust Magic tool. However, he did know the Stardust Magic tool could help cultivators to recover their energy more quickly and cut down the amount of fatigue. Normally, after spending 5 hours of meditation, they could only do other things in the remaining 19 hours. They were weary from meditating during the 19 hours. They could only pass this time through doing other things or sleeping. For a lot of students who wanted to advance, 19 hours of fatigue was too long, while at the same time, they couldn't do anything about it. When a person is putting their mind on a constant focus, they need to have an even longer period of relaxation. Otherwise, their mind would collapse. Whereas the Stardust Magic tool was a divine cultivation tool that was capable of cutting that fatigue time down. With the meditation fatigue period cut down, that would mean the increase of the daily meditation time. There may not be much of an effect with just a day or two. However, a month or two would make a small difference when it was compared to cultivators without a Stardust Magic tool. If they were to practice with it for 2 or 3 months, then they would be in a completely different league compared to their peers. The efficiency of meditation varies from people to people. There are fast and slow ones, so let's not think about that for now. However, even if the efficiency was exceedingly slow, one could still be in the lead with the help of the Stardust Magic tool. People who did their best and had talent would only do half the work for twice the effect. Uncle, you mentioned the elite class students would have the opportunity to use the Stardust Magic tool. Is this true? Mu Bai asked with a slight excitement. That's right. Since this is a magic school, naturally, there are also some few cultivation resources. However, the resources are very limited. There are so many students, thus, giving each student the chance to use it is not possible. Therefore, it's necessary to have the annual examination and the elite class. This way the students of the elite class will have an opportunity to use the Stardust Magic tool for a period. It won't be a problem for you to enter the elite class with your grades. When the time comes, I'll pull some strings from behind the scenes and let you use the school's Stardust Magic tool for a little bit longer. For you, this is quite beneficial. The school is an equal place after all. It's not possible for me to do too much. What would truly allow you to soar to the sky is to use the Stardust magic tool from our Mew family. That is something a common magician will never be able to obtain in their lifetime. That's why you must treasure it, Mew, he sincerely said to Mewbai. Don't worry, uncle, I won't disappoint you. Saying that to me is useless. You need to prove yourself in front of Mewningsyu and the family head. Mew, he patted Mewbai's shoulders as he said this. Mewbai nodded seriously. His heart couldn't help but to give a cold laugh. Su Zhaoting, so what if your cultivation is on par with mine? So what if you have the lightning element? Behind me is the enormous Mew family. You will never be able to contend against me. Oh right. How's the situation with that kid called Mo-fan? Mew, he inadvertently thought of this as if he thought of a beggar he didn't want to give money to. He asked without thinking, as though he had nothing to do. He's trash. He will definitely be expelled from the school. Mewbai didn't need to cover up his despise for Mo-fan. Mewbai really loaded Mo-fan. When everyone was young, they actually grew up in this area together. However, Mo-fan would always have a group of people following him. He was like the Monkey King. However, what Mewbai didn't understand was the fact that the revered and matchless Mewningsyu was actually blindly mixing with them, and their relations were very intimate. What did he count for? He was like a wild monkey, running around the block and mountain areas every day with a whiff of attitude. Yet, his poverty was fully revealed. Did he know what true power was? Family status. Did he know what it was to be called laughably poor to the point where people would always look down on him? The son of a servant is just low. Without seeing it, he just didn't know what vision was, what is called ambition. He just lived in his slum house, in that mud-reeking street, and took pleasure in working hard. HMPF, I'll sign him off. I'll have an explanation for Emojio seeing as well. It's not that I didn't help. It's just his idiot son wasn't able to become a mage, even when we gave him a chance to awaken. Sigh, people just aren't tactful. They just have to spend massive amounts of money to give it a try. The thing is, you are a loser. How can you hope for your son to be an Allosaurus? Being poor and useless is something that gets passed down through generations. Mew, he slowly said as he took a drag off his cigarette. At this moment, Mew, his eyes were half closed. He looked like a grand and graceful old fox. He even revealed his disdain and ridicule for poor people.